mad at Taylor team is winning football games. One of the most crazy things ever. Now, look, if you like this kind of content, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell to be notified of future content, and leave a comment. The question today is, are you happy to see that a team stuck with their quarterback and won the Super Bowl? Because that's what you end up getting. You end up getting Patrick Mahomes, who re-signed a very large contract just recently with his team, and they're winning Super Bowls. That's an AFC team. That's not an NFC team, by the way. The Bears. The Bears have to take on the San Francisco 49ers and teams like that in order to get into the Super Bowl. But this Bears team that we're about to have, and to be fair, I care about who the quarterback is. I think that Justin Fields gives the Bears the best chance to win next year, but I don't care who the quarterback is. This team is significantly upgraded already, just based on the talent that we've put forth on the field, just based on the players that we've had so far that have really started to come together and coalesced into a better team. Um, um, You're delusional for even talking after watching that game. The Bears will keep Fields. Yes, that and I also love nachos. Thank you for bringing that up. One of my favorite potatoes. Fuck my life. Anyway, so Patrick Mahomes shows exactly what you can do if you just stick with your quarterback, and if you don't trade your quarterback and you just stick with him for an extended period of time, then you might have good things happening. Do you know what I mean? Gonna be real weird. Almost as weird as chat right now. Anyway, so I did a mock draft. I got another mock draft to talk to you about. I got another draft that Schrock came up with because every single day we're doing this. And by the way, I went into one of the generators and let me tell you what happened. Caleb Williams was not the first person that was not the first person taken overall. So very, very weird. Very, very weird, by the way. The number one player taken in my draft today, Drake May. Number two, Marvin Harrison. I missed out. Like I missed out on Drake May, Marvin Harrison. And then at the 3 pick, would I take Caleb Williams? Hell no. I did not take Caleb Williams at the 3 pick. But guys, I'm going to show you my draft in just a few minutes, and you're going to see what I did because I was looking out for Justin Fields, and I was making sure that Justin Fields had all of the tools and talent that he needs in order to make this a successful team. Guys, if you like this type of content and you like talking about the Chicago Bears, make sure that you hit the like button on the way in. That helps push me up in the algorithm, gets more people into this. And we're going to put here KC defeats There we go. All right, so we'll let they get their recognition for the day, but that's all they're going to get. And then after that, we don't care. So anyway, let's get on with all of the good. First of all, shout out to Patrick Mahomes in the end zone, throwing a touchdown to end the game and bringing a win back to Kansas City. Big win for Taylor Swift. Big win for Joe Biden, by the way. If you guys did not see it, this was absolutely wild. Again, I don't know where you land on politics because it's silly to me that people get divided over what really amounts to stupidity. But Joe Biden, right after it, because people were talking about conspiracies and blah, 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 and the Super Bowl's all set up and fake and blah, blah, blah. And Joe Biden sends this out using the Bitcoin laser eyes, just like we drew it up to indicate that there was that it was all like it was a plant. It was sitting up. You know what I mean? Jesus Christ. It's wild stuff there. But anyway, shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs for taking that big win. Now, in the news over the weekend, here's what we got. We got that it would take, and by the way, there were 2 ways that you could have or could interpret this story. Okay. And the first way was delusionally by saying that means that we're going to go with Caleb Williams because he like is a really good guy, or whatever it is that you talk like. I just assume you talk real stupid if you make like stupid thoughts like that. Anyway, Jeremy Fowler comes out, Ian Rappaport, and they say that it would take a crazy and historic haul for the Bears to trade the first pick. Now, what is that? What does that mean to you? Well, to me, that means that I would be out here letting people know. If I'm Ryan Poles, by the way, if I'm Ryan Poles, what I'm doing is I'm out here and I'm letting everybody know. I'm letting them know, hey man, you want my pick? You better come correct with a nice little haul. Now, remember, previously we had talked about several different scenarios in which the Washington Commanders would want to move up. And of course, you would get the number 2 pick in the draft instead of the number 1 pick. But when you trade down 1 pick and you're still going to get your guy, whoever your guy might be, assuming that it's not Caleb Williams, whoever, if you're going to get your guy and you know that you're going to get your guy, then the question would become, how much is that worth to you? Is it worth a second round pick? Plus, is it worth a first round pick for next year? What is the case? What is it worth for you? And Ryan Poles, in my estimation, is telling everybody, hey, look, don't insult me with your bogus and weak offers. I want a real offer. And what he's doing, in my estimation, what he's doing is he's telling everybody right now, and by the way, when I say everybody, I just mean 2 people. I mean, he's telling the Washington Commanders and the New England Patriots, give me something to work with here. Now, what does it look like for that? Well, I don't know that they have real talent. So it's going to come down to draft picks. So do you get, and by the way, I would also, I'm not Ryan Poles, so I'm not here and I'm not here to quantify, but what I would be doing is I'd be looking at which one of these teams is going to be better next year. And then I would be looking at trading to the other team, knowing that I would get a better draft pick the next year. So I'd be looking at, if I think that New England's probably going to go through some things and that Washington has done a decent job in rebuilding, and I think that New England probably is going to suck, and I think they're in a better division with Tua Tagovailoa, stuff like, if I'm looking at the NFC East, I'm saying like, I think that this team's going to be worse off because of Dallas and Philadelphia and stuff like that. If I think Washington is probably going to eat it, New England will be fine in the AFC East, and I would trade with whoever's going to give me the best draft pick the next year, depending on what the odds are, right? Or depending on what the offer is. But there is an offer out here that Ryan Poles will move off of that number 1 pick in order to take. Now, here's the thing. One of the things that Ryan Poles has made very clear, he is perfectly content to stick with Justin Fields. He is also perfectly content to use that number 1 pick on somebody like a Caleb Williams. He's also perfectly content to take a Marvin Harrison Jr. He's perfectly content with what he's building and taking the best players that are available. Now, it's been argued unsuccessfully by most. By the way, thank you to Merrill Hodge, who absolutely dunked like Michael Jordan style, like your name is Patrick Ewing. You know what I mean? Like he reached up and he took this ball and he absolutely dunked it all over everybody's head when he was talking about Caleb Williams. Now, if you're wondering who Merrill Hodge is the guy who told you that Khalil Mack was going to be a special player. He told you that Jadeveon Clowney would not be a special player. He told you that Johnny Manziel was going to flame out dramatically. He was the guy that keeps predicting. And by the way, at the same time that he's doing that, you might be saying to yourself, yeah, well, he wasn't right every single time. Again, I just assume that's the way you talk when you say stupid shit like that in your brain. But what he did say is he also predicted Patrick Mahomes was going to be a really good quarterback. He also predicted a lot of stuff along the way. He also predicted Andrew Luck would be one of those really good type talents. He's one of those guys. He's one of those guys that he does a really good job of picking. Now, he's also a little bit stiff, if you will, on people. Not exactly one of those nice guys when it comes down to it. And what he said is this: I don't see anything generational about Caleb Williams. And I've only watched 6 games, by the way. It should be noted that he's only watched 6 games, but he didn't see anything generational about Caleb Williams. That did not mean, by the way, that he doesn't think that Caleb Williams is a good quarterback. It doesn't mean that he's not saying any of that. So, by the way, And just for clarity, because these kind of things come up all the time. Why was he fired by ESPN for being bad at his job? He wasn't fired for being bad at his job because the NFL Network picked him up immediately. So there was value there, but ESPN can't afford that because they're spending all of their money on stupid stuff, and they're being woke, and they're being Disney, and they're continuing to have to let go of people. So yeah. Anyway, it's wild. It's wild. He's been right a lot. And here's the thing. This is an incredible, an incredible opportunity. So was Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick won 7 Super Bowls. I mean, he like drug his nuts over every single one of the players that you like in your life. Dominated, destroyed, annihilated. I mean, just beat them up every single day. Like he drug himself. Like he took his like Bill Belichick took all of his hoodies off, and then his pants off, and then just drug himself across every one of your favorite players for years. Still got fired. Still doesn't matter. There are plenty of good people that get fired all of the time because the company can't financially support a person because they're paying that person a lot of money or something like that. They want to save on their payroll. Doesn't mean that that person doesn't have value or talent. That just means that people who aren't thinking clearly use it as, well, yeah, I got fired. No. Again, I just assume when you say silly shit in your brain that that's the way you talk. So anyway, so to summarize, Ryan Poles has a lot of options going into this. Now, one of the things that Ian Rappaport says is Chicago would need a historic haul of draft picks and overall compensations to move off of the first pick in the 2024 draft. Sources say, in the word of one source, it would have to be crazy. That indicates the Bears, who received the pick in a mammoth trade last offseason with the Panthers, are more likely than not to make the pick and land their new franchise quarterback. So that means that they are looking heavily at Caleb Williams, or so it seems. Or what are they doing? They're setting everybody up to say, look, we want a big haul. And here's the thing. We take the people like Ryan Poles, who absolutely fleeced the Carolina Panthers in order to get DJ Moore and this number 1 pick. Think about this. You got DJ Moore and this number 1 pick. And these guys are saying that this guy, he must be playing checkers right now. This Ryan Poles playing 3D chess with everybody right now, and we're all just watching. Drafting a rookie quarterback means they'll likely trade Justin Fields, and Rappaport writes that there should be an active and fertile market, and that the possibility to trade for Fields should command considerable interest. Now, it's been off and on whether or not Justin Fields has the value that we would like, which would be a number 1 draft pick. It's looking more like it's a number 2 draft pick. Now, if that is the case, then you're looking at people like the Atlanta Falcons would need to pick one up. There's I want to say the Dallas Cowboys, but you know what I mean. Oh God, Dak Prescott, you keep just letting them down. But anyway, the Washington Commanders, New England, like some of these guys are probably in the market and would be looking if you knew that Caleb Williams was going to be off the table. But you also have to look at Jaden Daniels. You have to look at Drake May. So there are some instances where people like the Raiders lower down in the draft, the Falcons lower down in the draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be looking for a quarterback and would maybe be willing to give you something nice for that. So it is my opinion specifically that Ryan Poles is letting people know, I want a lot of stuff for that first round pick. And I would also think he really doesn't intend on moving off of Justin Fields. I think there's been enough little leaks here and there that have been confirmed, said by him, not leaks from the third parties, but enough leaks from him and Matt Eberflus directly related to Justin Fields that says that they are motivated to stick with Justin Fields. Now, it would be my estimation that before you could make that decision, you would need to have some kind of workout and let Shane Waldron and let Kerry Joseph at least kind of feel this out and let them have some say, have some, like, what do you think? What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about this? And it would be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, this right here is actually probably one of the more telling things. You could count the Raiders out. In my estimation, I think that Justin Fields made a comment towards the end of the year that they weren't setting themselves up for success, and that you really are not saying that Luke Getsy is the problem, but you are indicating that Luke Getsy is the problem. So I would say that there's probably not a chance of the Raiders being part of it. However, the Raiders would then convince you, and don't think that they won't. The Raiders would then convince you, or they would convince their fans, or they would convince everybody involved that, hey, these guys worked together before and they could make something special happen here in Las Vegas. So don't kid yourself in that they wouldn't work together. I've seen plenty of wrestlers say stuff about Vince McMahon, like they would never come back to the WWE, and they come back again. Like, there's no never, unless you're Colin Kaepernick and you take a knee, then there's a never. But otherwise, there's no never out here in athletics. So, however, it should be noted, Jeremy Fowler, in his latest article, shared what he's heard. I'm not sure I've talked to one single scout or executive who doesn't think Chicago should keep the pick and draft Caleb Williams at number 1. As one high-ranking personnel exec said, there's Caleb, and then there's a pretty big gap. And that's not true at all. Now, that is an opinion. That is an opinion. However, and look, if Caleb Williams is the guy, he's got my support 100%. I would prefer to see somebody like Justin Fields get one more run. It would be a shame to me, because I think that this team has finally kind of coalesced and come together. And we saw it at the end of the year when they went 5-3. I think we saw a transition from this team to not very good to pretty good to potentially a playoff team. And they just had the wrong coach in the wrong position, teaching a guy who's not good at, and that should be, by the way, I'm not dismissing the fact that if Justin Fields is not good at the offense that Luke Getsy wants to run, Luke Getsy runs pretty generic, bland, predictable NFL offense. If Justin Fields can't do that, you do have to ask questions. It is fair to ask questions. However, one of the other things that we're going to get into is Danielle Hunter is now going to be a free agent with the Minnesota Vikings, and now there's conversation about Danielle Hunter coming to the Bears. Like, they are going to make a big push. That was another thing that he heard. So let's move on from that for right now. Chiefs won, but Caleb Williams supporters didn't. Here's what the Bears learned from the Super Bowl. Well, let's kind of break this down. The obvious, Ryan Pace, what were you thinking? It's been said countless times before, but let's say it again. Ryan Pace, what were you thinking? Mitchell Trubisky or Patrick Mahomes? Wow. By the way, it was not Mitchell Trubisky or Patrick Mahomes. It was Mitchell Trubisky or Deshaun Watson. Patrick Mahomes was a third option for almost all of those people. Narrower gap. The 49ers were within a 4th-and-1 play in overtime of winning the Lombardi Trophy. They were the best team in the NFC, but they beat Detroit by only a field goal. The Bears manhandled Detroit in Chicago and led by 12 with 4.5 minutes remaining at Detroit. And guess who the quarterback was for that team that just barely, that the Bears were clearly the superior team to, just got beat by the 49ers. Are the Bears a playoff team? Duh. Who was the quarterback there? Justin Fields, both times. Justin Fields didn't give up 17 points in 4.5 minutes. Justin Fields didn't do that. Justin Fields gave him 26 points and an opportunity to win. Justin Fields also dominated Detroit the second time. This is one of the final 4 teams. Let's not forget that when we're in here talking about, man, Justin Fields is going to go because he doesn't do the thing that I want. Again, I just assume you talk like that in your brain because you say wild shit like that. But this is the guy who did that. And this guy was very, very close. The gap between where the Bears are now and being able to play on such a high level against good team seems great. But when the matchups and results are studied closely, it seems like a less steep climb. They need to prove it isn't a steep climb. San Francisco lost Deebo Samuels at times Sunday with an injury and had George Kittle leave, but both came back. The 49ers just kept putting productive players on the field, and these weren't all day 1 or day 2 draft picks. Jawan Jennings was their leading wide receiver with 4 catches and was a 7th-round pick. Brandon Ayuk helped pick up the slack for Samuel, who still caught 3 passes for 33 yards. When Ray McLeod wasn't bumbling away the football on punt returns from the red zone, even he caught a 19-yard pass. The Bears lacked depth at target of target at receiver. They need to find more, possibly 2 or even 3 who can produce. By the way, my draft that I'm about to show you guys, that's exactly what I went for. And I went for one of the hometown boys, and I'll show you what that is later. By the way, make sure you hit the like button on the way in and leave a comment in here. Let me know. Are you Team Justin? Are you Team Caleb? Which one are you? Do you believe that the Bears should go with Justin Fields? Do you believe that the Bears should move on? I'm on Team Justin, but you might be different. The Bears lack depth at receiver. Even the Chiefs were an example of this. No one likes Kansas City's attempt to replace Tyreek Hill when he left, but the Chiefs have now won 2 Super Bowls without him, as they found a decent receiver can be good with the right passer. It doesn't take the best receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Rashid Rice, Justin Wallace, and even recycled Mecole Hardman made 3 catches or more for Mahomes to complement Travis Kelce, who came on strong with 9 catches for 93 yards. The 2 starting Chief tackles were Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith. The 2 Bears starting tackles this year were better according to Pro Football Grade Focus. Listen, I want to say this one more time because sometimes you guys don't understand when we're tracking this stuff. The 2 starting Chief tackles were Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith. The 2 Bears starting tackles this year were better according to Pro Football Focus. By the way, the guy that you want to get rid of and draft another offensive tackle for, Braxton Jones, I keep telling you, let's give this guy a little bit more time. Now, obviously, Darnell Wright was fantastic, but Braxton Jones, that's the guy. Guess what? He was better than the guys on the Chiefs. If you're not listening and you're not paying attention to when I keep telling you that this Bears team is a playoff contender, then you're not paying attention to the obvious of all of this. The change that had to be made on this team was made. The change was that offensive coaching position, and not that Luke Getsy is not a talented offensive coordinator, not that Luke Getsy can't be a success in the NFL. Luke Getsy just wasn't working with the quarterback and the team that he had, and he was using his own system versus adapting his system to be successful into. He just didn't do anything. He didn't do the right things when it mattered. But I do want to stress, and I say this all the time, Luke Getsy, at the beginning of games was a fantastic script writer. He scripted some fantastic first quarter runs. Justin Fields, by the way, 112 quarterback rating in the first quarter during those scripted plays. It's when Luke Getsy had to start winging it and coming up with plays on the fly that he wasn't that good because he didn't make adjustments. He didn't adapt his offense to suit who he was playing. He was just continuing to do the wrong things. Keep finding pass rushers is the next step. As Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus insisted, you can never have too many pass rushers or cornerbacks. The Bears appear to have cornerbacks in sufficient number, but to face teams like the Super Bowl combatants, the Lions, or even the Packers, they need more than one pass rusher. They need more. They need to come at a team in waves with pass rushers from their line and not blitzes. The 49ers did this, and it still wasn't enough. Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, and Jared Goff won't look nearly as comfortable trying to throw against the Bears secondary with constant real heat applied. The Super Bowl showed you as many as possible who can do this because overtime games and even non-overtime games wear down pass rushers. Anytime in the final Chiefs, by the way, the Chiefs just go with their guys. They don't even bother to swap. They just go with their guys. Like, you get tired, suck it up, biatch. You know what I mean? Like, they just keep going with it. So a shout out to them. Like, you got to be worn out. The Caleb Williams question. There was this belief among those who think the Bears should trade Justin Fields and draft Williams that if Mahomes won another Super Bowl, it would support the ideas the Bears should draft the USC quarterback. Williams was said to be like Mahomes and is a gifted quarterback who can deliver Super Bowl wins as an off-script playmaker. The Chiefs' win did not support this theory. In fact, it did as much to support the opposite idea that they should keep Fields and trade the right to take Williams for extra picks to build the roster as strong as possible. Williams might do some things that resembles Mahomes' style, but there's only one Patrick Mahomes, and even as good as he is, he was barely good enough to beat the team that was surrounded by a 7th-round quarterback with talent. Think about this. Just take a step back and look. This was a 7th round, the last pick in the draft. Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy. By the way, his son, his little brother Chubba. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. If you know the story, you know what I mean. That kid. And look, I don't have anything against any kid who's in college trying to do his thing. But Chubba Purdy went to the University of Louisville for his first year, and he said God told him to go. And he's like, I just want to thank Jesus Christ and God because they're the ones that told me that I got to go to Louisville. And on signing day, a God apparently came to him in a dream the night before and said, oh, no, we're going to go to Florida State instead because God wanted me to go here. And then he sat there and he never played for Florida State because he wasn't good enough. And then he was like, I want to thank God because God told me that I got to go to this other school. Why does God keep lying to you? You know what I mean? Like, I hate when people do that. Like, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And then Brock, by the way, had a great career. And now look at him. Brock is just absolutely crushing him. So, I think we can all agree right here that the Bears should stick with Justin Fields, and the Super Bowl confirms it. Moving on. I don't know if that's true. By the way, I don't know if that's true or not, but hey, you know what? It's my goddamn show, so I get to do whatever I want. Now, let's talk free agency here. And let's break this down just a little bit. Bears salary cap analysis, the flexibility for GM Ryan Poles. What's next for Jalen Johnson? Now, look, 25 million is the cap right now for Montez Sweat. 22 million for Tremaine Edmonds. Eddie Jackson, 18 million. Now he's got to go, right? Like we should be able to argue here that Eddie Jackson's got to go, and so does Cody Whitehair. These two right here, they're just not, it's just not working out, right? DJ Moore, he stays. Cole Kmet, he stays. Nate Davis, obviously he stays right now, doing fantastic. DeMarcus Walker, like this is where you got a lot of discounts for a little while. You've got Tevin Jenkins, who's still under his rookie contract. You got Andrew Billings still under his rookie contract. Darnell Wright still under his rookie contract. You got TJ Edwards that you got for a really decent price here. DeMarcus Edwards, he's not the pass rusher that you need, but he's a serviceable backup at $8 million. Might be a little high, but he's out there. And you got Justin Fields at $6 million. So you got a good contract structure. You got a good opportunity right here. So you want to count out a couple of these guys. So your dead money on Eddie Jackson, you're going to save $12.5 million. You're going to save 9.1 on Cody Whitehair. You would save $352,000 on Nate Davis. You're keeping him. And Kerry Blasingame, you're going to keep Kerry Blasingame, $1.6 million, no big deal. But you're going to pick up $22 million in available cap space right here to add to the 46 that you currently have, giving you about $70 million in cap space right now. So post cap, if you wait until June 1st, you can unload these guys for like $24 million. But of course, the draft, you've already had the draft, you've already had much of free agency, so you would have to be using them to free up some space. So you have to make a decision here. Do you want that 1.5 million right there, or do you want to save it for next year? Same thing over here with Cody Whitehair. Do you want to save those? So there's going to be a lot of money that's available out here. So now the question is, the tag for Jalen Johnson is 18.4 million estimated. Here we go. Most people who are looking at Jalen Johnson are saying that, really, Jair Alexander is the comparable guy. Shout out to Louisville. Jair Alexander, L's up, baby. Alexander signed a 4-year contract in May of 2022, averaging $21 million per year. One agent cited salary cap inflation that Johnson could begin with a market value of $24 million, which would blow past Jair Alexander at that position. So you have to ask the question here: is $25 million what you're going to spend on Jalen Johnson? That's a good question at this point. So if you do that, then you have to be shrewd, and you have to, you got to do a good job in the draft, of course, and you've done a good job so far, because Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith have been godsends, to be fair. And Kyler Gordon, I mean, these guys, they've done a very good job, and will continue to probably do a very good job to continue to build this team in the draft and through the draft. So, we'll have a little faith in that. So Jalen Johnson going to cost about $24 million. Let me know if you think, by the way, in chat, let me know, is $24 million too high? Do you think that just maybe you can get some kind of hometown discount? I don't think that you can. I think that Jalen Johnson is going to want that big money. So I feel like Jalen Johnson really, 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 and to be fair, like, I think that he's going to end up being worth it overall too. So also the Bears are reportedly preparing a push for star free agent Danielle Hunter. Now, if you have about 40 million in cap space and you can free up another 24 million at least is going to Jalen Johnson. You need another 20 for the draft, not necessarily a 20, but they're close to it. So that gives you one more possibility here. And that is Danielle Hunter, who at 30 years old had 16 and a half sacks. But his current projection have him commanding about a 3-year contract for 65 to 66 million. So can you fit in? Can you fit him in for $22 million a year? That's the question that you would have to ask yourself at this point. So you would really be looking at it. And again, you've got $46 million in cap space. And if you have that much in, if you have that much in cap space and you throw out Cody Whitehair, I mean, not throw out, but you know what I mean. You throw out Cody Whitehair and Eddie Jackson. You got to replace those positions. Maybe you can do it in the draft. Perhaps you can do it in the draft. But the reality is, if you get this defensive edge rusher, you've really changed the dynamic of your team dramatically. Number one, and number two, you've really eaten up a lot of cap space. So if that is the case, then it is reasonable to expect that you're starting to look at some cap restraints where you've had plenty of room at that point. So now here's the question. Can you afford to keep Justin Fields? That becomes your real question at this point, because if you decide you're going to go with Justin Fields, and this is why the Justin Fields selection is going to be incredibly important, because you got him for $6 million for 2024, but after that, 25 million and up, baby. So you better be sure about Justin Fields before you do that. And by the way, I do want to shout out Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders came out the other day and said, I'm better than Caleb Williams. I'm better than every one of these quarterbacks in the draft. Whoever gets me next year is going to be the lucky one. Just as a shout out against all these people who are saying Caleb Williams is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's really the good guy. Even though Merrill Hodge just like dunked on him, some people still believe that because, they're locked in. They just believe whatever they believe because they believe it because some other person said it, and they don't like one person. So they just believe everything the other person does is right. It's a weird thing that we go through. But the thing is, Shedeur Sanders, like, I'm better than them. So, and his dad, Dion, says it too. And if Dion says it, then it's got to be true, right? Right? Probably not, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so now this is going to be, by the way, if Daniel Hunter comes in, it's going to be absolutely the best thing. So now we have to start looking at some real things that we have to do, right? I'm going to show you my draft in just a second, by the way. Why the Chicago Bears might re-sign Equinemius St. Brown. It's not even complicated right here. You need people, you need bodies to fill the spot. And now, if you've done what I just said, if you just in closing out this portion, if you did what I said, and what I said was you're going to sign Jalen Johnson, then you're going to go out and you're going to sign Daniel Hunter, then you got to sign your free agency class, and you're done. Like, I mean, you've done what you've had to do, and now you've got to, through the draft, you've got to build, and you got to make good decisions in this draft, right? So to shore up your areas of need. And by the way, you still don't even have a center if you've made that move. By the way, it should be noted, you don't even have a center at this point if you've made this move. You're going to have to draft a center, which I did, by the way, in my draft. So, is Shedeur Sanders better than Justin Fields? See, here's the thing. I think that I don't know that he is. I don't watch enough Colorado games. I watch plenty of USC games. I watch plenty of, I watch every Louisville game. But I watch a lot of SEC games. I watch a lot of Big 10 games, Big 12. And I've watched Caleb Williams just because I knew he was coming here. Right. And as far as everything that I've seen from Shedeur Sanders, I disagree that he is better. I think he's more athletic and more talented than a lot of people that were watching. But also, they crashed and burned last year after having a really nice start to the season. After everybody just decided, well, Deion Sanders won 3 games in a row. He's got to be the absolute coach of the year. He's probably one of the greatest coaches of all time. And then they proceeded to just absolutely stink up the rest of the season. But here's the thing. They're going to get way better. And I think that we'll get a good idea of the talent of Shedeur Sanders once they've had another season to create, once they've had an opportunity to really create that thing. So, but here's the thing. In the event that you decided that Justin Fields was not that guy, you're not out of options. I just want to say that. So again, I would stick with Justin Fields, but that's just me. I mean, you guys might want to do something different. However, Equinemius St. Brown. Now, also, why Sadiq Charles would be a savvy signing for the Chicago Bears in free agency. Now, I don't know that you guys are going to bring this up, but I thought somebody might bring this up. So I wanted to put this out here and just say, no, he would not be, because I just told you that you already have, and this, by the way, is an offensive tackle. Why would you bring in an offensive tackle who's already when you already have when you have two offensive tackles who are better than the Chiefs' offensive tackles, why would you bring in another offensive tackle unless it's for a backup? And that right now is Larry Borum. If you can get this guy for around what you got Larry Borum for, and you can dump Larry Borum, go for it. Perfect. I'm in. Let's do it. But otherwise, I mean, Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright are your better options. Now, with that being the case, let's get into my draft simulator here because I want to show you guys what happened here. I'm going to show you the first. This is the full first round of my draft. And guys, this is bullshit. Like these guys, like I can't even in my draft, by the way, just want to show you guys, Caleb Williams was not the first overall selection. Even the draft knows better. I'm just kidding. I don't know that the draft knows anything. However, in the first round of my mock draft, I had the first overall pick and I traded down. Now, where did I trade down? I traded down to the third pick and I traded that third pick down, and I thought, you know what? That's my Marvin Harrison Jr. slot. Well, they threw me for a loop here, and I don't think these guys are this is read the room. I don't think these people are paying much attention here on this mock draft. This is wild here. But New England took Drake May with the number 1 overall selection. At number 2, the Washington Commanders took Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, in this context, Marvin Harrison, they now have nobody to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. But let's go with it, right? So what I did at the number 3 selection is I took Malik Neighbors because I think that Malik Neighbors is also one of the best route runners in all of football. And I did not feel bad about this selection at all. In fact, I felt really good about this selection because I think Malik Neighbors represents at least very close to what Marvin Harrison Jr. represents. I mean, this guy is fantastic. So Caleb Williams ends up going 4th. Terrion Arnold is 5th. Dallas Turner at 6, Joe Alt at 7, and then Jaden Daniels at 8. And then at number 9, I took the edge rusher out of Florida State, Jared Verse. So that had the biggest needs for me. The biggest needs for me were, number 1, I needed a wide receiver to make my quarterback, again, whoever the quarterback is, to make my quarterback better. And then I needed an edge rusher who could get to the quarterback, who had a motor. Now, my edge rushers are Dallas Turner, Luatu Latu, and Jared Verse. I like Jared Verse. Again, like I told you guys, I watch a lot more SEC, Big 10, Big 12 than I watch of the West Coast teams. The only reason I watched USC was because Caleb Williams was on the team. So, but then that leaves us to, Kool-Aid McKentry. JJ McCarthy moved up in the draft. Brock Bowers came down at 14. And by the way, I looked at a bunch of different ways to try to change my drafts. But then in the second round, at the number 34 pick, I took Leonard Taylor, defensive tackle out of Miami, because if you remember, we're probably going to part with Justin Jones. He's a free agent, probably not going to re-sign him. So I need some depth right there. And what I'm going with at this point is I'm going to go with Andrew Billings. I'm going to go with Gervon Dexter, and I'm going to go with Zach Pickens. So I need a little bit more depth at that position. So I brought in Leonard Taylor in the second round. In the third round, I reached out and got Jonathan Brooks. I picked Jonathan Brooks, the running back out of Texas, and I went with him because he represented to me not a stable upgrade to Deonta Foreman, but a serviceable backup. So I felt like, we need 4 running backs in the room. So Jonathan Brooks comes in, and we stick with Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson in that. Then I took my center at the number 75, and I went for the current center at the University of Georgia, 6'4", 310-pound Cedric Van Pran. And I thought that was a really good get. Like, I think this guy represents a pretty good steal down here at the bottom of this draft. So I went with Cedric Van Pran. And then let me just show you the rest of my draft over here. Then at the number 110, I took Jamari Thrash. He's a wide receiver out of Louisville. I did take him because he was from Louisville, and I had seen plenty of game tape on him. I think he's a game-changing sort of receiver guy. But he's a backup. He's not he's not somebody that I'm going to stick on the main stage. But he is a serviceable backup that would allow me to do something like get rid of Darnell Mooney and not have to pay Darnell Mooney $8 million a year I'd be able to get this guy for, at 110, like, 400,000 a year. So, $1 million signing bonus and 300,000 a year is a pretty good deal for a receiver who might get an upside, maybe has an upside. Then I got McKee Wingo, a defensive tackle, to provide, again, a little bit of depth because the rotation is going to be very, very important. And also this guy, McKee Wingo, also represented. He has the ability to play edge rusher. And then we have Malik Mustafa in case I needed a safety to replace, in my estimation, Eddie Jackson, who's probably got to go. I would assume that in some way, I'm going to spend a few $1,000,000 and get myself a safety, or Kyler Gordon is going to get a lot more playing time. You know what I mean? So, and I would be good with Kyler Gordon instead of the nickel. He's specifically a nickel back, but maybe we can work him into the position, and then we can bring in some backup here. So that was mine. Now, then you have Schrock. We have Schrock Bears mock draft number 2. And what he did was number 1. There is no reason to believe the Bears won't stick at number 1 and Williams won't be the pick. So he's a generational talent. One NFC scout told NBC Sports Chicago, they don't make them like him. What Caleb can do, that probably only comes around once every 20 or 30 years. Guys, they say that about one quarterback every single time. Never works out, or rarely works out. So, but he says that the Bears will take him at number 1. And then in my first 2 mocks, I had the Bears selecting Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze at 9. He's a perfect compliment. But after speaking with Odunze at the Super Bowl and people around the NFL, I don't get the sense he'll last until number 9. I think there's a good chance that the first 6 picks in the draft are 3 quarterbacks and 3 receivers. With Odunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison off the boards, the Bears trade down with the Colts and pick up an extra 3rd-round pick. This leads us to round 1, number 15. After trading down, the Bears get Brock Bowers. New offensive coordinator Shane Waldron used 2 tight end sets a lot in Seattle. The Bears already have Cole Kmet, but Bowers is a different beast who can be utilized in a myriad of different ways. So, the Georgia product is a unicorn prospect who reminds scouts of George Kittle. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands and has elite ball handling skills. Physicality, body control, and play strength are outstanding. So in this, you can't get your receiver, so you trade down and you look for something else in the draft. And at number 15, you end up with Brock Bowers. Now, guys, I do want to say I would not have a problem with this trade at all. I would have a problem at the beginning with Caleb Williams, but hey, you know what? Work my way through it. I don't give a shit. Like, whoever the quarterback is, I wish them all the success. And I think that we're going to be successful no matter what. Now, when this happened right here, it changed the dynamic for me of what I'm expecting in free agency. If this were the play right here, then free agency has to be all about getting a wide receiver to complement DJ Moore. So that's where Mike Evans might come in, or Curtis Samuel, somebody else. We've got to get somebody at wide receiver. Then you're going to trade down. They're going to make a trade for Justin Fields. The Bears receive the number 34 and a 4th-round pick. The Patriots would receive Justin Fields. And then in round 2, we take Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon. Good opportunity right here. Not a great player, but a very good player, very solid. I mean, you get somebody in the 2nd round like that, it's a very good opportunity. Round 3, Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia. Good selection. The writing's on the wall for Eddie Jackson is what he said. It seems like a pretty good idea here. So you get a young safety next to Jaquan Brisker. Again, Kyler Gordon is still out there, but we'll see if he can make that. We'll see what they do. Number 3, at the 82, they select Cedric Van Pran. By the way, in case you didn't know, that's the same guy that I just picked in mine for the center position, because Jackson Powers Johnson's probably gone, and so is Zach Frazier. But they were projected to be top 40 picks. But this is the 3rd round, number 82, and this is where he fits in perfectly. So this could be your guy. So there's some symmetry to that overall. So that's what we got, guys. I mean, it looks like it looks like this thing is shaping up. So we've had a good show so far. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. So the question now becomes, what's next? What's next for the Chicago Bears? Shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl again, for the San Francisco 49ers for getting there to begin with. Shout out to the Detroit Lions for clearly being an inferior option. And look, by the way, for those of you that are in chat right now, I know that there are a lot of people out here that I don't like Justin Fields because I don't think that he represents everything. Again, that's how I think you talk. But these guys are the guys that are saying Justin Fields can't do it, but Justin Fields is the guy that just annihilated Detroit, the team that lost by a field goal or could have been in the Super Bowl and was actually like up 21 to nothing in the NFC Championship against the San Francisco 49ers. Their defense collapsed. Their offense stopped performing. It has to be pointed out, but they lost by a field goal and otherwise would have been in the Super Bowl. And in even though the Bears didn't come out ahead in the first game, they had them 26-14 before a defensive collapse, and then they utterly annihilated them with Justin Fields at quarterback, which by all rights would mean that Justin Fields is probably a better quarterback and that they're currently a better team than the Detroit Lions. So, there's a lot of haters out there, and that's okay. You're entitled to your hatred. Again, I just assume that's how you talk. You're entitled to not like it, but if Ryan Poles says so, you're going to have to live with it and you're going to have to deal with it. Now, I do believe that the best option going forward into this, at least this next season, is Justin Fields. I also understand why some people don't like Justin Fields. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. He needs to be more accurate. He needs to be more accurate. Um, he needs to make better throws. It is 100% true. He needs to read defenses a lot faster. You saw it in Brock Purdy. I mean, you saw the ability to read defenses and make very, very quick decisions. I would posit that that the offense was not designed for his strengths, so that he didn't get a chance to develop. That it could be true. It could be true that changing offenses over and over again probably stifled a little bit of his development. But despite that, you see the talent on the field. By the way, Merrill Hodge, who said that Caleb Williams is not special, who said that Khalil Mack is special, that Jadeveon Clowney was not, that Patrick Mahomes was. The guy that all the way down the line keeps picking him, telling you Johnny Manziel is going to flame out immediately. He says that he would stick with Justin Fields as well because he thinks that Justin Fields is a dynamic player that's been underserved by his coaching staff and that he doesn't really have the talent to throw to like he should and the offensive scheme to give him success. So if that's the case, I'm going to go with Merrill Hodge on this one. And I'm going to say that Merrill Hodge knows what he's talking about. Brian Urlacher doesn't. And we're all still Bears fans. So if Caleb Williams becomes the number one overall pick, I take back everything I just said because Caleb Williams is awesome. However, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is this. The Bears are the Chicago Bears. This is one of the elite, greatest franchises that we have in the NFL. Until recently, until Green Bay, who are very ugly, by the way. The people of Green Bay, just ugly, ugly. Absolute. Every one of the players, just ugly, except Jair Alexander, very handsome man because he's from Louisville. But all of these guys, look, they represent the rivalry, right? And there was a time when you never thought that they would catch. Now they've caught, and now they've won more games, and I hate that. So it's time for the Bears to come alive and start making some shit happen. Okay. So I'm going to support whoever it is that gives the Chicago Bears the best chance to win. And I don't think that it matters at this point. I think everybody's putting a lot into quarterback because quarterback does matter a lot. But we saw two things happen in the Super Bowl. We saw a $40 million Patrick Mahomes beat a rookie Brock Purdy. Okay. The Mr. Irrelevant. So it really doesn't matter. What matters is, can you learn the game and can you have an incredible team around you taking you there? And the Kansas City Chiefs had their best defense in a very long time. San Francisco had their very best defense in a very long time. The Chicago Bears are well on their way to having their very best defense in a long time. And guess what? Defenses win championships. So the Bears are a championship level contending team next year. They will be better than the Kansas City Chiefs. They are going to annihilate this league, surprise a lot of people. They're going to surprise a lot of people. And hopefully, we're all part of this ride because I think this is going to be absolutely a fun time. So until then, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Bear down. I hope you have a great day. And if we get any news or anything like that, then we'll have some additional videos coming out.